Allow me to get totally off the chain for a second on the 4th of July law. Only the government was born on the 4th of July. There's three components to a national entity. First is the country. That's the land you're sitting on. The second is the nation. That's the people that live there. And the third is the government. It's just some kind of administrative scam that's prevailing at the moment. So, let's see me get off the chain. Because this government that we have is a puppet show. Yes. They might want to say, oh, thanks for fighting for our freedom. No. It's been a while since all the soldiers that go out there and in an organized military that go out and gain colonial protectorates for the mother country, like the Spanish-American War, or attempt to, like Vietnam. And who do we throw in with? Is DM, some kind of corrupt colonial puppet left over from the French regime. And he was just some guy who decided he's got power over the country, and the country's got resources, and he's going to direct how the wealth is distributed and how the companies are set up. And what he ends up doing is enslaving the population and stealing their money from them, making it impossible for them to be self-sufficient without mother government. In Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh loved the United States because they kicked out the Japanese in World War II. And then they didn't try to meddle too much. They didn't meddle as much as the Japanese until later. And then they decided to go in with this DM guy. Actually, the Vietnamese communists designed their government after the Constitution, which is a horrible document anyway, but that's how much they were inspired to like the Americans, that they just happened to call it communism. Maybe there's a language barrier there, lost in translation about their government. Maybe because what's actually the difference between a community, like you have like a city, or a municipality, or a government? Yeah. Name only, if they've done their homework and find out, oh, they really liked the Americans, until we decided to go in with some kind of corrupt guy who just padded all his cronies on the nation's wealth, the country's wealth, and enslaved him in the process. Oh, yeah, that's the guy we were with in Vietnam. So actually, the way they've been going out, the Americans are the bad guy. You can look throughout history as being the bad guy. No matter how much promotion we give ourselves and pat ourselves on the back for being such a big, strong country. And actually, war hurts freedom. Governments that engage in a policy of constant war, which we're going into now, their reach has exceeded their grasp, and they're just feeding their oligarchy. They're a bunch of useless leaders at the top directing everybody, who probably individually couldn't run a hamburger stand. You know, these are the people that, and their main skill is getting elected. And they send you, trot you off to war in a third world country and watch your ass get handed to you. And then they don't take care of you when you return. Because that's their policy, you know, they want to enslave the population. It's a lot of jingoism. There's a lot of ground for propaganda. Like, we need to create a first hole so we can dig our instruments in there and pry, you know, because we're the government. We exist for the sake of existing. We've become an entity to ourselves. So, look at the government throughout history. The Persians were like this. They developed into an oligarchy, and eventually they were spread too thin, and they were conquered by the Greeks, who conquered too much and spread themselves too thin and collapsed, and were replaced by the Romans, who did exactly the same thing. And after that, another recent example, the nationalist Chinese, Chiang Kai-shek and Madame Kai-shek of China, they pretty much had a hold on all of China. There was infighting in factions, there still is today, But their reach exceeded their grasp, and they were taken over by the Maoists. So, and then the Nazis, didn't they push it a little too far? And look what happened to them. And the Soviets, they tried to meddle too far away from the Kremlin, and make it work, and it didn't. Bye-bye, Soviet Union. So who's next on the list but the Americans? And I am so hedged for them to fail. Big time. I'm so hoping for it deep down. Because what else can you do at this point? It's very, very well developed for failure at this point. So what can you do for them? Sometimes, and the one thing I hate is the gouging of the gas prices. Because who really represents? It's a representative republic, not a democracy. But the government represents a bunch of people who own oil refineries and electricity plants and go big or go home type of people. And the government's supposed to be watching the antitrust laws and make sure there's not a cartel gouging everybody for gas prices. Yeah. It's just so far down the wrong road. I just have no hope for it, and I'm hedging for dystopia, which I can craft into something better later on down the road, possibly. Gotta have something to hope for. You can't be a hopeless case. This is AugustusLarch. Thanks for watching.